Hey there, NASCAR fans. Welcome on to this week's episode of the Highline Podcast, where I'm, of course, Jason, and he's William, where we get to look forward to talking some NASCAR with you guys. Let's go ahead and make sure we recap what happened last week out at Phoenix, and then we move to the East Coast. We'll be down at the Atlanta Motor Speedway for some super speedway racing at the Ambetter 400. Let's get William's opening thoughts. What's up, my man? How are you doing?
Going good, man. This past weekend was a snooze fest. Once again, out West Coast. It was very boring. But, though, we got lucky because we were supposed to film yesterday, but some things happened. But, like, when we would have filmed yesterday, we wouldn't have known about the breaking news. But today we do. Denny Hamlin fined $50,000 and docked 25 driver points because of his comments on his own podcast about wrecking Chastain on purpose. And all four Hendrick Motorsports cars got in big, serious trouble. So did the Collie car. So what's going to happen is for all them teams, Alan Gustafson of the 9 team, Cliff Daniels of the 5, we're going out of order here, but Rudy Fielgo in the 24, and Blake Harris in the 48 are all suspended. They're getting a 4-week vacation, if you will. And they're being all fined $100,000. And the whole team is losing 100 points each. And 10 playoff points, and that's going to hurt William Byron. But I think it's still early in the season. They can come back from this. William Byron's still in the playoffs. Nothing's affected there, but they just got a little bit of a steeper hill to climb up if they're wanting to have 4 cars in the top 10 in the owner's points. And that's a little bit far-fetched, but they can still do it.
Let's talk about that since you brought it up first. Let's talk about I want to talk about maybe the Hendrick cars and them obviously losing their crew chiefs. When that happens like on a Saturday leading up to a race, I think it is a big deal. But this much in advance and then knowing that they have the next 4 weeks to go ahead and prepare for it, do you really think there's much of an impact come race day, or given the amount of preparation, they can make contingency plans and it's no real impact? I've been trying to decide where I fall, and I think when it happens this far before the race, as opposed to race day weekend, like on a Saturday, I just don't see it being that much of an impact. I mean, the points is detrimental. They lose playoff points. They lost 100 regular points. The money is obviously a thing, but the crew chief, I don't know. Do you think it's really going to be that big of a deal? I mean, these cars are fast anyways. You need somebody to make the decisions, but they can strategize, and that's why you have a team.
I think it's going to hurt them to a certain point. Like drivers like Josh Berry, I don't think it's going to really affect him at all because he's used to working with many different crew chiefs. And Alex Bowman, the same also. He's been with many in the past. William Byron is going to struggle, in my opinion. And Kyle Larson, it's kind of wait to see what's going to happen because he's been with Cliff Daniels ever since he joined the 5-car team back in 2021. And before then, he was going through crew chiefs like every single week, it seemed like. And so I think it's going to hurt him to a certain point, but nothing big time. And, but like you said, though, it happened on a Saturday. I don't think there was nothing like dramatic about it. They knew what they were doing. Let's be honest here. They knew what they were doing. They knew what they were getting into, modifying the hood louvers and helping them out because the point of a hood louver is to get heat from the engine out a lot quicker. They're trying to manipulate air, if you will. And that right there, they knew what they're doing. They knew they're going to get caught eventually, and when they did, they're going to have some type of plans in place, and they did. And that's why I don't think right now there's a big fallout with Hendrick Motorsports nor Colleague.
Yeah, and let's take the time to remind everybody. So that's exactly what it was. It was those hood louvers that they took off of those Hendrick cars. And I guess the reason that there's a big penalty is NASCAR goes to this next-gen car because they wanted everything to be single source. And obviously that was going to help out with the owners in terms of being able to afford parts. If you get everything single source, that should be able to obviously drive down the price because everything's being bought from the one manufacturer. Hendricks obviously modifies these. They obviously, though, weren't getting all their speed from these because if you were listening to the broadcast on Sunday, they said when they got confiscated on Saturday, they just got additional hood louvers off other Chevys, other Chevys. So it's not like they got all their speed because they were still super fast on Sunday. I'm sure when we recap the Phoenix Raceway, we'll talk about how dominant Hendrick was. So it was giving them speed and maybe giving them an advantage, but clearly, not a big and not a massive advantage. Now, the other situation there with Denny Hamlin, that's going to be a little bit unfortunate situation, I think, for the fans because obviously if Denny Hamlin doesn't run his mouth, he's not going to get fined. He got fined because he admitted to doing the last lap, intentionally wrecking Ross Chastain. So if he just does it and doesn't open his mouth, there's no fine. Now, from a fan's perspective, you kind of like that. You feel like you're being brought inside to, kind of the inside stories and kind of getting to know what the driver. If the drivers just can't communicate now and can't kind of tell their stories because they're going to get fined, now we're not being connected as a fan base. So I understand why NASCAR does it, right? If you're intentionally wrecking somebody, you should be fined for that. But now, as from a fan, that's I always think about the NFL, right? We love those the mic'd up, when the player that's wearing the mic, and then you watch the videos or you watch other kind of like behind the scenes. Like, we like that, we like Denny Hamlin getting on his podcast and spilling the beans. You're not going to get that if guys are going to get fined. So that's the only takeaway from that is justified fine, but from a fan's perspective, kind of sucks.
Well, from NASCAR's perspective, and I can kind of see where they're coming from. It's very unprofessional for Denny Hamlin to go out there and admit that he purposely did that. What if Chastain would have gotten hurt? That right there would have been a bad situation there. And like right now, NASCAR is feeling the heat by IndyCar. They're coming up big time, and obviously Formula One is. And do you see any of these like remarks being made by any of the drivers out there in those two series? Heck no, because they know how much they mean to that whole sport and their sponsors. And Denny Hamlin, I am sure FedEx wasn't too pleased with that, and neither was that new sponsor of his. A tongueful to say, but Denny Hamlin's sponsors are not proud of him, and neither is Joe Gibbs. And a bad situation all around. Does he? I ain't saying that he's not in the right or wrong. I'm just saying, though, he shouldn't have made them comments. That's not the best thing he could have possibly done.
Okay, all right. Those are the big penalties that came out through NASCAR this week. Let's go ahead and talk about the Phoenix Raceway, the United Rentals Work, United 500. Man, it's always a mouthful getting that one out there. Where obviously William Byron picks up the checkered flag, now back-to-back wins. A few things I had, I wanted to say in terms of watching this race is, first of all, that was a terrible race. I mean, just a flat-out terrible. We saw one green flag pass for the lead, and that was Harvick, there towards the end, as he was just phenomenal. After those last cycles of green flag pit stops, that 14 made the right adjustments, and I mean, he was kind of good on all the long runs, but after that last pit cycle, he was just super fast, and obviously he passes Larson. But we only saw one green flag pit stop. All the others were on restarts, and I don't really count those. I mean, there was the one, obviously, to kick off the race with Byron getting over Larson, but I don't count that, and I don't count anything that happens on the pit stall. So only one. I mean, absolutely terrible. And second of all, like, why is Phoenix the finale? Like, I can't remember the last time Phoenix had a good race, and yet this is the finale. And now short track racing, I don't want to say it's broken, because we are only 1 year in a next gen car, but it is not the quality of racing that any fan likes and is getting entertainment from. So bad short track racing. Phoenix itself has kind of sucked lately. Like, what are we doing here? Why is this the finale?
Get rid of the shifting is a simple answer to this issue, because if you're shifting, it's going to take the momentum a lot longer to build up so you can build a pass. So if there's no shifting and less shifting involved, it's going to be a lot easier to pass, because momentum's going to be changing left and right. Denny Hamlin, I am a big fan of his podcast. I know his remarks I don't agree with necessarily, but he did say this and he backed it up with a lot of reasonable things. But he did say, though, if you get rid of shifting at these short tracks, the racing product is going to be a lot better, and cars are going to be able to pass instead of just following close along and they're stuck in the train. And I think if you eliminate shifting, but I don't know. I think it's time for NASCAR to look at another track for like the final race.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I don't know. I like the Homestead. I like Dover. I like Richmond. I don't know. Something close to the Charlotte area would work really good for them.
Yeah, it's not cutting it for me out at Phoenix. Otherwise, takeaways from this, obviously, I think you said it. Hendrick, I mean, they just flat out dominated, right? Byron cruises through stage 1. Larson cruises through stage 2. Other than really Harvick, was clearly good on the long runs, and then obviously right there in stage 3. It was all, and even Josh Berry made the top 4. I mean, all 4 Hendrick cars were in the top 10. With Josh Berry cracking the top 10. So Hendrick was dominant. They've kind of been the dominant since we've left Daytona, obviously. What was Harvick doing, though, at the end, only taking 2 tires? Like, Larson has the number 1 pit stall. He's been first off the pit road all day long. You knew Hendrick was only going to take 2 tires. They've kind of shown their hand before. What is Harvick doing taking 4 tires there? You got to do something to try and beat the number 1 pit stall in Kyle Larson's team. I don't understand why he's taking 4 tires at that last pit stop.
Well, honestly,
get it.
Well, honestly, if I'm in Rodney Joder's shoe, his crew chief, I'm taking 4 tires also. But where I think he messed up was he took the outside line, and you should take the inside line on the choose cone. Even though you're going to sacrifice a couple of rows back, you can pass on the bottom. It's hard to pass up top. You don't got no momentum. And I believe that's where he messed up, and so did Tyler Reddick. Reddick got real close at the end, but we saw, though, them 4 fresh tires were quick, very quick. But once he got up top, he lost all of his momentum, and that's when Ryan Blaney took home second place. And, I don't know, I just think it was a good call, but a bad decision to choose inside or outside. I just don't like that.
Okay, so you had an issue more with it choosing. Otherwise, William, I don't have anything else to say from Phoenix. That was just about as boring as it gets. That was about as boring as it gets.
That was extremely embarrassing for how much they're hyping up the championship race year in and year out just for it to be like that. That was pitiful, and they should be doing their homework as we speak about this short track little deal they got, because it is terrible.
Yeah, if Burton doesn't bring out that late caution, that's the only reason you had drama at the end. That's why people are like, "Oh, it was a good inning." I mean, if Burton doesn't bring out the caution, you got a terrible race. That terrible race. So
Burton needs to go on somewhere. That was uncalled for. I don't know. I guess I don't know. That was too much. Like, people wanting to judge this race, saying it's good because the final restart, but the race sucked. It really sucked. And Burton, go on to Xfinity or Trucks, because they rushed you up the cup and you're nowhere near playoff or championship material. But
that's what
NASCAR
needs. NASCAR needs those guys to bring out the late cautions, to breed the drama. You need those slappies in the field to screw up like that, William.
Yep.
Just slapping. All right, let's go ahead and turn attention to Atlanta Motor Speedway. That was not a good, enjoyable. So let's talk about this Ambetter Health 400. Obviously, 260 laps at the new 1.5 mile super speedway configuration that they have down there in Atlanta. William Byron's your defending champ. Can he win 3 in a row? He's going to have a little bit of a tough task, as William mentioned. He goes ahead and loses his crew chief. Chase Elliott was also the winner here last time we were at Atlanta, at least for the fall race perspective. So I've got some drivers that we need to go ahead and watch out for. I know you've got a list that we need to watch out for. We'll ping pong back and forth. Tell us somebody you need to keep an eye on this weekend at Atlanta Motor Speedway.
One driver to keep an eye on is Josh Berry. He's been in the 9 car for 3 weeks now, or about to be 3 weeks now, but I like what he's doing. He's learning more about this next gen car week in and week out. And I believe with this being a super speedway style track, I think he can go out there and possibly still to show. I said it last week, he's going to be quick at Atlanta, and I'm backing it up now. I'm really confident with this pick right here, Josh Berry, to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I mean, top 10 last week, as I mentioned, all Hendrick cars top 10. That's a nice pick right there. I'm going to go ahead and pick on Corey LaJoie. I think he'll be good. Remember, he was battling Chase Elliott last time we were here. He got 5th at the Daytona Duel number 2 earlier this year, 16th at the 500, 14th at the 2022 Daytona 500. So been running up, top 15-ish in these super speedways. 14th at Auto Club, 20th at Vegas. So a guy who has got some really good momentum this year, getting multiple top 20s. 5th and 21st last year at Atlanta, mentioned when he was dueling Chase Elliott last year as well. And he even got 14th at Talladega in the spring of 2022. So a guy who's got some good pedigree here at the super speedways, having a relatively, in terms of his, pedigree, a nice season this year. So I'm kind of looking for Corey LaJoie to maybe have a good run. What's another driver for you, William?
Another driver I'm looking at is Michael McDowell. He's always good at the super speedway style tracks. He's always up there in the mix. He won a Daytona 500 back in 2021. That's not really relevant at this point in time, but it does show he can win a race. And I believe he's a driver to keep an eye on.
You like Michael McDowell. I also like Austin Cindric, another guy who's won the 500. Mentioned, he's won the 500, 9th and 21st at Talladega, 3rd at Atlanta last time we were here at the fall, and 2nd in the duel number 2 earlier this season. So Austin Cindric should be kind of right up there towards the top. I will go ahead and give out another one of Ryan Blaney. Of the 13 super speedways since 2020, he's got 2 wins, 5 top 5s, which is second most, and 8 top 10s, which is most in those 13 races. Expect Ryan Blaney to be up there when it's all said and done. Who do you got for another one to watch for?
I've been hyping him up these last couple of weeks like he's one of my favorite drivers, but he really isn't. And it's going to be Corey LaJoie. He is hot right now. He is getting the most out of his car week in and week out. And these are the type of tracks and races you go to where you can get the jackpot and go get a top 10, maybe a top 5, or hell, maybe an A-race win, which is something he came close to last summer. Remember, folks, if Chase Elliott did not wreck him, he would have won the race, but still missed out the playoffs because he was still well in the 30s in the points. So that really didn't have made a difference, but he would have had a race win.
Yeah, would have been good for him to do that. All right, another one you want to keep your eye on is Bubba Wallace. Of those 13 races since 2020 at super speedways, he's got the most in the top 20. He's got 12. A lot of this stuff takes a lot of luck, but he's also been putting himself in good position. 12 of his last 13 have been in the top 20. Obviously, he got a win at Talladega at the rain-shortened race a couple years back. 4 top 5s, which is third most. 12 top 20s. Again, that's most, all but one. So look for Bubba Wallace, and then also look for Danny Hamlin, a pseudo teammate of his. Of the 13 super speedways since 2020, he's picked up 2 wins, 6 top 5s, which was most, 7 top 10s, 10 top 20s, and he's got the best driver rating of 91.4, and he's the only driver rating since 2020 with a driver rating of 90 or better. So do you have anybody else on your list you need to keep an eye on?
Those are drivers I feel really comfortable about. I will say drivers I think will suck is going to be Harrison Burton. I just think he sucks as a driver. And Eric Jones and A.J. Allmendinger, I just think those drivers are going to have a terrible weekend. And I believe the media hypes all 3 of them up a tad bit more than they should be. That's my opinion.
I've got a couple bigger names that maybe won't do all that well. Martin Truex Jr., while he does have a couple nice finishes, generally not well at all at the super speedway. So I'm not looking for much for Martin Truex Jr. And also Tyler Reddick, not another guy that can get it done, generally speaking, at the super speedway. So looking for 2 of the bigger names in Reddick and Truex to maybe not have the greatest of all runs. I want to throw up a graphic right here just to show you. And the really one that I want to highlight here is Joey Logano. So these are all the drivers that have a driver rating of 80 or better since 2020 at the super speedways. You can see the drivers. You can see that there's not many of them. But really to highlight Joey Logano here, just because, look, he's got the second best driver rating, but his average finish of 20.5 ranks 33rd. That's what you get at the super speedways, folks. This stuff can be tough to predict because of the wrecks and because of the nature of the wrecks and the amount of cars that they can take out. You've got a guy here, second best, but 33rd best average finish. So I think the winner is going to come from this list. If I had to take a guess, I would bank on one of these guys that consistently, you can't avoid the bad luck, but these guys generally will drive excellent, and then maybe they do get hit with bad luck. But I'm going to expect the winner is going to come from one of these guys. Who do you got this weekend?
So you just want to start from third and work our way down?
Sure.
Let's go to third place. I got Josh Berry in a 9 car. I think he's going to have a great weekend. Top 3 on the board. I think he'll take that. Remember, folks, he's out for next week in Coda because Ricky Taylor is going to fill in for him. And I believe he's going to be one of the race favorites. He's really good at these types of cars. The next gen car is so similar to what he drives on a weekly basis. So that's looking forward. But Josh Berry, third place Sunday.
Josh Berry for you. I'm going to go ahead and say P3 is going to be Brad Keselowski. Just a guy that'll know how to be there at the end. It can always pop up and get a win at the super speedway. So I love Keselowski's pedigree here. I love what the team's doing. Maybe even keep an eye on his teammate there in Chris Buescher. I'm not going to have him in the top 3 of what we're doing right now, but don't be surprised if his teammate also has a good run and maybe both of them are in the top 10. So Keselowski for me in P3. What about P2 for you?
Well, P2, I don't know. The Vikings are starting to let me down of some of the free agency moves they got going on. So we're just going to put this hat on and say Chase Briscoe would take second place. He's got a top 10 last week in Phoenix. A big-time finish for him and a result for that whole team. Because remember, he was well in the 30s of Ryan Preece in the points, but that top 10 got him inside the 20s. That's still not good, but it's a heck of a lot better in the 30s. So Chase Briscoe going out to Atlanta, I think he's going to have a great weekend as a runner-up.
Yeah, he was good on those long runs last week out in Phoenix. So, yeah, nice showing there by Briscoe last week. All right, for P2, for me, I'm going to go ahead and say Bubba Wallace. That was one of my drivers to keep an eye on. I kind of justified why you should keep an eye on him. I'm looking for Bubba Wallace this week at Atlanta, so give me a P2 for him. All right, who's taking that checkered flag for you?
I believe taking the checkered flag this Sunday at the Atlanta Motor Speedway is going to be the legacy motorsports driver Noah Gragson in the 42 car.
Whoa.
I believe he is going to go out to the Atlanta Motor Speedway this weekend and pick up his first career NASCAR Cup Series win as a rookie. Believe it or not, I believe he is. And it's getting exciting, folks, because Noah Gragson has been working his tail off these last couple of years, and I think it's going to all pay off this Sunday.
All right. Wow, you got that is a little bit of a shock. I'm going to go with Ryan Blaney. Been close. Kyle Petty calls him out. All right, maybe this is the time for him to get it done. I think this is where he can get it done. So I will go and say Ryan Blaney will get it done. All right, let me Is there a contest on Fox Bet Super 6? Do we know? We'll go pull it up.
If there is, you got a 0.000000001 chance of winning. So it's dang near impossible. Not a big fan of what they've been doing with that app lately, not just from NASCAR, but any other sport on there. During the NFL season, it's so hard to win Terry Bradshaw's money. And NBA stuff's hard to pick. And they do a lot of other stuff on there because they promote things that are on the Fox channel on a weekly basis, and it's still impossible. They're just trying to make it seem like they're giving away money, but they're really just trying to keep it. So I don't think it's fair.
Let's do some of these easier questions, though. Which driver is going to have the best finish at the end of the race? Do you like Hamlin, Logano, Truex, Busch, Larson, or Harvick? I'm going to go Logano.
Harvick.
Okay. Let's skip that question. That one's too difficult. Here we go. Which of these drivers will have the fastest lap by the end of stage 2? Blaney or Byron? Byron's hot. Hendrick's hot. Byron won here.
Byron's going to be up front. Think about it this way. The car that's in first place is usually slower than the car that's in last place. So I think Blaney will be in the mid-pack. He's going to be a little bit quicker, so I think Blaney.
All right, we'll go Blaney. Which team will have the most laps led? All right, who's going to lead more laps, Hendrick or Joe Gibbs? Well, I'm not expecting Truex. Really, Hamlin.
Give me Hendrick.
Christopher Bell ain't going to do all that. He ain't going to be out there leading laps. And then for Hendrick, they'll be leading laps. They're going to be up there. So this one's actually tough. I'll go Hendrick.
I think a good number for that one right there would be around 30 to 40 laps because it's a super speedway. We're going to see a lot of passing for the lead, and that seems like a reasonable number.
Oh, yeah, definitely going to. Which manufacturer will have the car gain the most positions? This is always tough. Ford or Toyota? You're right. These questions. All right, here's the last question. Let's do this one. Which driver is going to have the better finish at the end of stage 2? You think it's going to be Briscoe or Almirola? I'm going to go with Briscoe.
I think Briscoe. Almirola is worrying me right now. I just don't like what I'm seeing from him, and I think it would have been better if he, I don't know. I'm kind of on a rant this video, but I'm just going to say I think he should have retired last year. I don't think he's doing real good right now and worthy enough to keep that ride. It's very embarrassing because Stewart-Haas Racing, besides Harvick, is a joke, a total dumpster fire. Almirola sucking it up week in and week out. Chase Briscoe sucking it up week in and week out. And Ryan Preece, holy cow. Tony Stewart made a bad decision there. It couldn't have been much worse than Cole Custer, but I'm just saying, they're in a big dumpster fire, and they need a lot of help at Stewart-Haas Racing. And before we get off here, I do want to mention this, but remember, Atlanta Motor Speedway last year was the first time they raced at this new style track, and the pit road was the same. But this weekend, the pit road entry is in turn 3 on the apron. So that's going to catch a lot of people off guard, and I believe it will produce a wreck or two throughout the Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup Series races. So I just wanted to put that out there.
All right, good stuff right there. All right, everybody, enjoy the race this weekend down there at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Should be a fun one. I think we'll definitely get a lot more excitement, obviously, than the past couple weekends there at Las Vegas and Phoenix. So appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Good luck with any selections you may make this weekend at the race, and look forward to talking with you guys next week as we're off to a road course for the first time. We'll preview COTA coming up next week. All right, William, enjoy it, my man.
All right, now.